Everybody, today we are going to make a white chicken chili in our Instant Pot. So let's go ahead and just get started. I've already pressed the saute button because I want it to start warming up, and I just have it on the normal saute. So as soon as the display reads hot, we'll go ahead and add our oil. Okay, the pan is now hot, so we're going to add about 3 tablespoons of olive oil, and then I just kind of wiggle it around there and just let the oil start getting hot. And then what I have here is I have 1 medium yellow onion, and then I have 1 rib of celery that I have just diced pretty fine, and I like to put those in at the same time, and we'll start sauteing those. And then we want to saute these until they just start to get translucent. Those are looking really good. So now we want to get started on our chicken. And if you don't want to cook your own chicken, you can use a rotisserie chicken from the store that you just shred up and debone, and that will work just fine. If you happen to have any pre-cooked chicken breasts in your home, just use those, maybe about 4 cups or so. I'm using just some raw chicken breasts. I have 4 of them here that I've diced up, and they're just going to go in and cook with the onions until they are mostly done, till I can't see any pink on them. And while these are getting going in there, I'm going to go ahead and add garlic now. So I have 3 cloves of garlic that I have pressed, and I'll just stir that in, and that'll start flavoring the chicken quite nicely. I have some spices that I'm going to add as well, but I like to add those once I don't see pink on the chicken anymore. So the chicken's looking really good. It's not 100% cooked through, but I just don't see pink on the outside. I don't want to cook it all the way through, because then when we go to pressure cook it, we risk overcooking the chicken, and especially with chicken breast, nobody wants that. It gets too dry. So at this point, I'm going to add in spices. And so what I have here is I have a teaspoon of kosher salt, a half a teaspoon of pepper, I have 1 tablespoon of cumin, and 2 teaspoons of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of oregano, and a teaspoon of coriander, which I also use in my carnitas, and it's just absolutely delicious. So I'm just going to pour all those in there and give it a good stir. And just let it kind of season the chicken a little bit more. Okay, and it's starting to smell really good. So now what I want to add is I have 1 can. It's a 7-ounce can of the mild diced green chilies, juice and all, going in. I think part of it landed on my counter. Well, if you don't make a mess in the kitchen, you're not having fun, right? Okay. And now here's another fun ingredient that I like to add, and this is the Curtis salsa verde. And I know I don't pronounce that right, but I usually add about 1/3 to 1/2 of the jar. So I'm going to start with about 1/3 and give it a stir. And this just adds a really nice fresh flavor from those tomatillos that are in it. Okay, looking really good there. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make it a 1/2 jar. I think I want to add just a little bit more. That was a lot of chicken. There we go. Perfect. Okay, moving forward, I'm going to add 1 can of diced tomatoes, juice and all in those. Even though it's a white chili, doesn't mean you can't have any other colors in it. and I really love tomatoes in chili of any color. Okay, then the next thing that we're going to add is our white beans. And when you talk about white chili, normally they're referring to the beans. And if you've ever heard of black and white chili, it's usually because they add black beans and white beans. So I went ahead and put in 2 different kinds of beans just to show you the difference. These are normal white beans. They just call them white beans literally on the can. And then these are cannelli beans. These are, I guess, Italian. Sometimes I'll make bean dip out of these ones. You mush them up and stuff, and it's really good. So this is 2 cans rinsed and drained. You can do 2 of the same kind, whatever you prefer, or you can mix it up like I did here and just throw those in there and give them a nice stir. So you can see it's obviously super thick at this point, but that's okay. We've still got more to go. Okay, and then I have here, this is some cilantro that I have rinsed really well because cilantro has a lot of dirt in it. It's about a ½ cup. I'm also going to save some to garnish because fresh cilantro is so wonderful on chili. And then the next thing we're going to add is I have 4 cups of chicken stock here. Woo! And it wants to come out, so we're just going to pour that in there. And that takes us up to the maximum amount that I would fill my Instant Pot. But it'll be just fine. And see, it's a perfect soupy consistency right now. And it'll cook up really, really well. The thing about the beans, they kind of thicken it. Especially you'll notice like when it cools off, it thickens. Okay. One final ingredient I just like to add at the very end, and that's just a little bit of lime juice, about a ½ ounce. Okay, now we're ready to put the lid on. I just check my rim here because I usually get a little goober or something on there, and you don't want to interrupt your seal. Okay. The lid goes on, set the knob to sealing. And now we'll cancel the saute mode. You might have one of the newer Instant Pots, so your buttons might look different than mine. So, you know, just look at your manual and see what it says as far as how to saute and how to, you know, cancel it. What we're going to do now is we're going to just use the manual button. You may have a button on yours that says pressure cook or something like that. So manual, and I'm going to go to 15 minutes on this one, and after it cooks I'm going to let it just naturally release pressure for maybe 15 minutes or so, maybe 20. Kind of depends on when I get back to it, but probably not much more than that. Okay, so there you have it. We'll come back and look at this after it's done cooking. Okay, so it's all done and it has been naturally releasing pressure for 20 minutes. I always say that the fuller the pot of soup is, the longer you should let it naturally release, just because when you go to release the pressure manually, you do run the risk of soup or stew or whatever the contents are spewing out of your little steam release knob there. So what I usually do at this point, because I want to get moving on this meal, I don't want it to sit in there all day, is I'll just take my spoon and then I'll just kind of gradually start releasing the pressure manually until I get a gauge on how much pressure is left in there. You don't know till you actually do it. So what I'll do is I'll just do it in little bursts at first and just kind of see. Okay. So far so good. Nothing's coming out of there except for steam, and that's what I want. So I'm just going to let it go. So because this is such a full pot, it takes several minutes for the steam to get out of there, and this one took about 4 minutes or so. So just while it was releasing, I went ahead and did something else, and as you can see now, the pin just dropped, so it is safe to open the lid. And I always do so. First of all, I make sure it opens very gently. And I do it away from my face. I always say that this is definitely not the kind of facial that I want to get. Then I use my little lid holder there. Okay, this is looking really good. I'm going to give it a stir. And then at this point what I do is I go ahead and I taste it and adjust my salt if necessary. So I'm going to go do that. So I added about a half a teaspoon more salt, and it's just perfect. And this is what we have. Beautiful white chicken chili. Now at this point you can serve it up and add your favorite toppings. And what I like to do, and I know that this changes it a little bit from just a plain white chicken chili to kind of an almost white chicken tortilla chili, but sometimes I'll add either some masa flour, and it just gives it that wonderful corn flavor, or I'll just take some, these are white corn tortillas, just 4 small ones, and then I'll just put them in there. Make sure you slice them up, and then they'll end up breaking apart and disintegrating a little bit, and then they'll just flavor the chili with a really nice corn flavor. You don't have to do this. This is just an optional step. Like I said, it changes it from your typical white chicken chili, but I really love it like this. So we have a group of people coming over to visit, and we're gonna set out chopped onion, some shredded cheese, several chopped avocados, and some tortilla chips, and some more cilantro and some sour cream for all the fixings, and then have it with a side of cornbread. And I think I'm gonna have a really happy bunch tonight. So I hope you enjoyed this white chicken chili with a little extra video. And if you want to get the recipe, it's on my website, simplyhappyfoodie.com, and I'll have that down in the notes for you. All right, guys, take care.